Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Marvel Comics Presents number 81, and this is Weapon X Chapter 9, but part 10 of the Weapon X story by Barry Windsor-Smith. This is quite an interesting cover, featuring Dr. Cornelius, but holding a gun there, and just in the foreground we've got Wolverine, or rather Logan's, hand still hooked up to these various wires, and his claws, adamantium claws, extruding there from between the knuckles of the back of his hand. Really nicely drawn piece, very organic hatching and cross hatching there, rendering the hairs on the back of Logan's hand and also on Cornelius's forearms, and really nice work on the drapery as well as the textures of the gun here too. So let's open this one up to the credits page and the splash page. So the credits here, we have story and art, Barry Windsor-Smith, letterer Jim Novak and BWS. So what that means is Windsor-Smith is laying out where the speech balloons and narrative captions are, and then Novak is doing the actual lettering, the professional lettering. But everything else is by Barry Windsor-Smith, and that's a hell of a splash page to open this particular chapter of the ongoing storyline. Now this to me is a very familiar image, and it may be to many of you, because this was the image that was used on Marvel trade paperback collections of Weapon X, such as mine here from 1994. You can see that it was recolored to be the cover, but here it is in its original splash page colors. So lots and lots of reds, magenta here, as Weapon X has gone berserk and killed a load of the security staff at the Weapon X facility. So that's what's coming out over the dialogue here. We've got Cornelius calling in to the chief of the crew. Did you get the professor out? Because that's what happened at the end of the previous issue's chapter. The professor was attacked by Weapon X and had his hand cut off. So it's chaos. It is a chaotic, disordered situation. There's confusion reigning, and the leader here of the crew is saying this is a massacre. So Cornelius tells him to fall back. Let's turn over the page to see what happens next with the storyline. So we pick up with the professor. He's bleeding out of the stump of his hand, and he's as imperious and supercilious as ever. He hasn't been humbled by the injury. He's there telling the guard that's trying to help him to get off, and then Cornelius is there, and Cornelius, of course, is a medic, so he knows immediately that the bleeding has to be stopped. And Hines there also recognizes that they're going to need a tourniquet. So Cornelius hands over his tie, and they tie off the stump of the professor. So Cornelius asks him, "We got to get you to an infirmary. Can you walk?" "I can run, Cornelius." In the background, though, the sounds of gunshots are heard because the massacre is ongoing. So the professor says urgently, "Just get me away from here," but not to the infirmary. So he's got a different option, a different plan. He wants to go to the adamantium reactor hold. And Cornelius is wondering, but why? "It's the only safe place from the weapon," says the professor. Great anchor image here of Logan standing atop this mound of dead bodies. And as he walks forward, we get these macabre sound effects, this schlick, schluck, as he's walking on all the gore. And there's one guy alive. He's there saying, "Sir, he's coming. There's nothing left. He's coming for me." And then he's cut off here, as he's literally probably gutted or had his throat cut by Weapon X. So they make their way to the reactor hold, make their way inside, and at this point the professor tells Hines to pick up the gun at the door and then to bolt the door immediately. So Hines is there giving him the gun, and like I said earlier, the professor doesn't gain any humility by what's happened to him. He remains absolutely rude throughout, and he says, "Not me, you idiot, Hines. What can I do with it? Give it to Cornelius." And I love the placement of the speech balloon here. Just behind, she's saying sorry, but it's spoken over by the professor. And just look at the way that he's holding the stump there, trying to stop the bleeding. So Cornelius takes the gun from her, says nothing, and but then he starts asking questions of the professor. as Logan, Weapon X, just keeps walking through the gore. "What's going on here, Professor?" asks Cornelius. "Just what do you think I'm going to do with this rifle?" So another great anchor image of Weapon X coming from them. It's like a horror movie at this point. They've created this monster, thought they could control him, but he's out of control and he's coming for them. He's in someone else's control. So the professor tells Cornelius that he's going to have to shoot out the power packs. Cornelius thinks that's ridiculous. Even if Logan is still alive, the systems are down. He can't. The system is not down, says the professor. It is in the control of another. So the professor has been in contact with somebody higher up than him in respect of his progress on Weapon X, on the Weapon X program or the Experiment X program. And I've said in previous videos that Barry Windsor-Smith, when he sat down to develop this particular story, got in contact with Chris Claremont and asked him, did he have any concrete plans for Logan's, the origin of Logan's adamantium, claws and skeleton. And all Claremont said was that he had an idea that he might have revealed that Apocalypse was involved. So that was Barry Windsor-Smith's gesture to Claremont's notion for the origins of Logan's adamantium lace skeleton and claws, that it had something to do with Apocalypse. And the implication is, for those who know that the professor may be the higher up he's trying to contact and answer to, and who's in control of the weapon, may well be Apocalypse. I like the little details here in the adamantium hold of the steam up through the ventilation grids on the floor. It's a nice little detail. Hines tapping away here on the computers, and the professor getting bandaged and getting a proper tourniquet there on his stump. So the professor tells Hines to stop that infernal dickering at the computers. She says, "I'm sorry, but the computer shows Mr. Logan to be fully active." So again, the professor, "I knew that blasted. He's in tunnel 2, sir." Great image of him going down into the tunnels, going down the steps there, moving in this direction. Like I said, it's like a horror movie now at this point. So he's tapping away at the computer system there, and Hines says, "Pardon, sir, that's not the central code." But Cornelius calls her away and says, "Let it go. It's out of our hands. I don't think we're a part of the game anymore." So the professor there is trying to get in contact with the one that he has been speaking to in previous chapters. And here is Weapon X coming from them, lit from behind and looking like a demon out of hell. This is a great shot, top-down shot of the professor at the computer screens, Hines and Cornelius watching him, the professor realizing that the person he's been talking to is not answering him. He's begging for an answer and to be saved. So great page here, great angle of the professor looking down at the keyboard, the sweat pouring off his face, the uplighting here on him and Cornelius as well. And Cornelius determined that we don't have to die, that he can use the gun. But Logan is at the entrance. He's clawing away with his adamantium claws. But look at this panel. It's so good. You can see that Windsor-Smith is showing us that he's in effect a zombie. His eyes are only half open, so he is being controlled by someone else. Fantastic colouring here, the buzzing and spacking of the electrical wiring as Logan Weapon X cuts through it all. All the sound effects here. The power goes down in the adamantium hold, and Hines realizes that they've got a problem. They've got to with the power off the turbines for the adamantium reactor shut down. So Cornelius thinks that's the least of their problems, and the professor here is just in despair, thinking that the reactor is going to blow, that they're all going to burn up, that they're all just dead wood, dead wood. And Hines makes the point, yes, that if they don't release the coolant into the turbines, they could blow. They could just blow up, blow, die, die. And the professor looks up from the keyboard. There's some blood dropping there onto his bald head. And as he looks up, the blood is pouring down the front of his forehead. So well done, this little sequence. As he's looking up here, we turn the page for a superb final image and cliffhanger to this chapter of the ongoing story. Just look at that. A raging beast, and with eyes only on the professor, and there to finish the job. cut off his hand in the previous chapter. He's out for the professor's life now at this point. And just that scream. Look at the hair there as well, the wild hair on Logan. Really, really excellent little chapter here in the ongoing storyline. Only 3 chapters left after this. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Marvel Comics Presents 81. That is chapter 9 of Weapon X, part 10. All the previous parts have reviews here on the channel if you're interested in looking over those. Let me know what you think of Weapon X, the comic series, in the comments to this video. If you enjoyed my review and commentary, please like the video on YouTube. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.